Cain, Mr. Candidate for Senator.
Yeah.
So this is huge. This is Moose. This is huge because we're having like a political candidate in here.
I know. Who knew we get so serious?
And I got to tell you,
Yeah.
I know nothing about politics.
Okay.
Like 0%, but I'm interested in it, which sounds
So you've
weird.
never had a candidate or even an elected official in here before?
On the radio show I have.
Okay.
On the radio show we've had Woo, we've had who was the mayor before her?
Marty Walsh.
Marty Walsh. We had what's the dude's name? He was running for president. He didn't even make it. He didn't even make it on the primary. We've had like some people, but I never know. But it's always, first of all, on the radio show, it's like a short form, 5-minute
Quick
interview.
clip. Yeah.
But I've never had anybody to sit down and explain stuff to me.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
But here's the thing, though. So with politics, especially now, it's a very it's just super polarizing. You know, like I inherently I don't trust too many politicians because I feel like what they do is they obviously say things to get elected, right? And then once they get elected, instead of trying to help everybody overall, they kind of like cut down their agenda to just working on what's going to get them elected the next time down the road. That's what it seems like to me.
Sure.
And just, I think it's stupid when somebody's like, "Oh, all their ideas suck because they're a Democrat, and all their ideas suck because they're a Republican." I think that some people have bad ideas, but I don't think everybody on one side's ideas suck just because they're this or just because they're that. I think that for the most part, it's like everybody's like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being an extreme Democrat, 10 being an extreme Republican. I would say most people are like anywhere between a 4 and a 6.
Yeah, and I think people in the search for purpose and meaning in their lives tend to identify with political parties these days more than they ever did before.
Exactly. And not just that, but they will get super extreme with stuff which brings me to you, where somebody might look and they'll look at a Republican and say, racist homophobes. Which brings me to so this is why I love having you here, because in case you don't know, Ian is running for senator as a Republican who is a black homosexual man. Which some people right now are like, well, he's not allowed to do that. He shouldn't be allowed.
I'm allowed to do anything I want.
That's what I'm saying. So now, we got to get into your story.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
So I was born in Boston. I was born at Brigham and Women's Hospital, 1982. Spent the first 4 or 5 years of my life on the Back Bay where my parents met. So I'm mixed race. My father's black. He was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but grew up in New Rochelle, New York, and Westchester County. He and my mom met at this storied bar on Newbury Street called Daisy Buchanan's, which you might remember.
I know Daisy Buchanan.
Yeah, they had this torrid love affair and were married 3 weeks later and then had me the next year. So my mother is originally from Quincy. So I'm a 4th-generation Quincy resident. We moved to Quincy when I was school age. I grew up across the street from my grandparents. Had a great life. I've been fortunate to be afforded all the opportunities. I went to the public schools in Quincy until I went to high school. I went to BC High in Dorchester.
Yep.
And then I went to Boston College and graduated in 2004. And there's much more, to talk about, certainly around professional life and all that.
Yeah. You have siblings?
I do. I have 2 siblings. I've got a sister that's 6 years younger than I. She's got 2 kids, a great husband. They live down in Marshfield. And a brother that's 10 and a half years younger than I. And he lives in Quincy as well.
Okay. So we got a good family life and all that stuff.
Yeah, great family life.
Because you need that now. Everyone's going to dig into everything.
Yeah, no, my family's great. My parents, super supportive to this day. My dad is going to be 79 this year. My mom will be 71. And they are like my, lead cheerleaders for everything that I do, even in this race. They want to be a part of everything. They eat this stuff up because they're so proud of the work and the time that they put into raising me and my brother and sister. And my sister and brother are great too. They're so supportive. We've got great relationships. We like to laugh together.
Yeah. Did anybody in your family family do politics while you were growing up, or?
So my father tried. He ran for the seat that I eventually won. He ran for city council in Quincy 3 times, first in 99. So he was the first African-American to run for anything in the city of Quincy.
Yeah.
So he ran in 99, 01, and 03. He lost. And then I won the seat when I first ran in 2015. So I was the first African-American to be elected to anything in Quincy.
So that's what made you want to get into it, seeing your dad?
No, actually, I never knew that my dad had interest in politics. He was an entrepreneur, and before that, he was in human resources and had his own search firm. In fact, I had a couple minutes before I was coming into the studio today, and my dad used to work on Totten Pond Road, so I drove up there because he used to bring me to the office all the time, and that was like fun for me going to the. I'm young kid. I loved going to his office and playing that role of going to work, but. Yeah, so I had some good memories just before coming in. But I was a very sociable kid, knew how to talk to people. And so from a very early age, it was always suggested to me that I would go into politics, Yeah. But then I developed an interest in it. My parents were enthusiastic about politics. My dad was historically always a Democrat, sort of towing that line, being a black African-American man, who supported the Democrats. My mother was a Catholic Republican, and my grandparents were Republicans. And so I was very much influenced by their perspective on the world. And, I would sit with my Nana in front of the TV and we'd watch political shows and I would yell at the TV with her. And, I would start writing to the President of the United States when I'm 7 years old, when George H.W. Bush was was elected. So I wrote to him for 4 years when he was in office.
About what?
Just, hey, I'm this kid from Quincy. Congratulations. Or I'd ask questions. I wish I had copies of the letters, but I would always get back some sort of magazine or like a form letter, at least acknowledging that I would write. And, that was where my affinity to public service and to government and to politics really came. And so from an early age, people, they say they want to be a firefighter, they want to go, become a police officer. I wanted to go into politics. And so from a very young age, I planned out my life.
Yeah.
I had looked at models of people that were politicians at that time, and there was someone who had done they had become a triple eagle. So they'd gone to BC High, they went to Boston College, then they went to Boston College Law School. And I said, all right, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to be a state senator in the Massachusetts Senate, and then I'm going to practice law and all this, and then I'm going to be president of the United States. And I followed that to a T to Boston College, and then I said, whoa, what am I doing here? You know what I mean? You follow a dream that hatched when you were young to a T, and you're kind of like, wait, I don't even know who I am. I don't know what's going on. And you brought up some interesting things, which we can certainly talk more about, but more about my sort of personal identity. I'm in college, and here I am planning a political life and planning to marry a woman and planning to have kids and really put together that framed picture of what a politician in America looks like.
Yeah.
And then you realize that maybe things are different, and maybe you need to realize who you are, and maybe the plan needs to change a bit.
It's funny that, you said your dad was a Democrat, your mom was a Republican, her family was, because people looking at that in 2024, they would not be able to handle that. But that's how it used to be back in the day. Nobody really, as far as me, I should say my experience, nobody talked about it politics-wise so hardcore that it just doesn't feel as polarizing as it is now. Like, there'd be families who, my friends' families and stuff, I couldn't tell you if they were Democrat, I couldn't tell you if they were Republican, and if somehow I figured out whatever they were, like, I never saw anybody be like, fuck them, don't talk to them because of this or whatever, which now you probably have it on dating sites going like...
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I did Democrat date only or something,
Yeah.
But I think that I've got a philosophy that I've been sort of mulling over for the past 9 years that I've been on the city council in Quincy. And I think that, there's a couple of factors. I think communications technology has changed dramatically over, let's say, 100 years, right? Starting from radio, working into television, and now in the advent of the internet, where information and conversation is aplenty. And so is manipulation. Right. And I think that people are being toyed with on a constant basis, whether it's through any of those various media, that people don't know what to make sense of. And, if you sort of take it even further back, for thousands of years, hearts and minds were controlled largely by religion and the concept of God. Right. And that sort of governed the family life. It governed a way of life that kept people organized and more in line. And I think in the advent of modern communications technology, there's been an erosion of the concept of God and the concept of religion. You certainly see the erosion of where communities used to circle around congregations in different ways, and now because there are sort of those vacancies in the heart and mind, people are more susceptible to concepts that are presented and sold to them, which I think they bite onto because people are looking for purpose and they're looking for meaning. And I think they gravitate towards political parties, issues of the day, which they need to support and substantiate their positions on those things because they might not have anything else to grab onto.
Yeah. And they also, what is it, confirmation bias, where it's like you go on and whatever you're looking for is what's going to be set to your algorithm.
Correct.
So what people will do is they'll see something and go, oh my God, everybody thinks this. And it's like,
No, everybody thinks that.
Everybody on your phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's the stuff you're into thinks that.
Right.
But somebody else will say, oh, everybody thinks that sucks.
Right.
And they all think this. But people don't, I don't know. I understand like when kids who all they did was grow up with technology like this, when they are confused with that, but when an adult doesn't see that manipulation, I kind of look at them funny, like how are you walking around without supervision? You don't get that.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I graduated from college in 2004. 2004 is the year that Facebook came out,
right.
And so towards the end of college, I remember it being introduced, and I remember that those of us that subscribed to Facebook at the time and you needed an edu address to participate were pretty conservative in its usage. You didn't post too many comments, and definitely weren't posting too many pictures. I think there was a reluctance to expose yourself in that way. And then, you fast forward a couple years later and all of a sudden adults start using Facebook. But even just before then, adults started using the internet, or parents, after their kids probably were first introduced, right. Especially myself. Like my dad was always in computers, so we always had a computer. I was always on the internet. But, I always think adults ruined the internet because they just used it in such a different way. Yeah. And all of a sudden it became more expository. The comments weren't filtered. You know what I mean? They thought that it was a place. I mean, it is a place where you can share whatever you want, but without consideration that somebody might be offended by those comments. Right. And that's just exacerbated over the past almost 20 years now, right? So I just think that the way that people now use and consume social media has become a bit destructive, and you talk about that confirmation bias. It's people talking in a circle about the same topics to each other, as opposed to having a sort of wide and more diverse opinion of subject matter.
And it makes it harder for people to have a conversation now, because not only do I can I talk with people who have different points of view, like I actually get excited doing that, because I look at it as learning something.
Absolutely.
Whereas, and I've always said this, I'm like, if we're having a conversation, as long as you don't sit down there and are trying to recruit me to whatever it is, I'm like, I'll talk to a damn freaking Jehovah's Witness who comes to my house or whatever, but people are losing that now because they just, if they're not hearing what they want to hear, they don't even want to hear it. And I think personally, a lot of it has to do with what I was saying earlier, where everyone's kind of like in the 4 to 6 spectrum. Mm-hmm. I think that you're afraid to sit down with somebody that you disagree with, and on whatever it is that you guys are discussing, where you feel a certain way, have them say something that makes you go like, shit, that kind of makes sense.
They might be proven wrong.
Nobody wants to be proven wrong, so they don't even want to get to the point where they're having the discussion,
right?
Because God forbid they're proven wrong.
Right.
No, I agree with this, and so does my aunt,
right,
and my 13 friends on Facebook.
You also need to be open to that. You need to be open to perspectives, reality, truth in some certain circumstances that some people don't actually want to see. And there's a whole host of factors, that's a whole nother subject, in sort of conversation. But of course, having conversations and understanding different points of view and learning from each other. I mean, I love that. That's what I'm doing right now, running around the state. I mean, that's what I always do. I mean, if you're not understanding how other people see things or how they live or from where they came, then I don't know what you're learning.
Right. Exactly. So, okay, so you're in college thinking you're going to be a politician.
Yeah.
With a wife.
Yeah.
Couple kids.
2.5, white picket fence, the whole thing.
Standing up the podium.
Yeah.
And then you're like, maybe I could do it with my husband. Is that like when you
Yeah, I mean, it was in college when I said I certainly knew that I was gay, and I had to readjust the plan. And I know that sounds so kind of cynical, but it's like, when you have your eyes set on something, especially for a profession, and you're committed to it, it's like, okay, well, how does this work then? Or even I'm 42 years old, so even now you're still reevaluating and assessing if you're doing the right thing on a daily basis, or at least I hope people are. I am.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you're not, you got to make sure that you're living to your own fullest in potential. But
I used to think there was an age where like all of a sudden everything like
you just get it
clicked. Yeah, and like in the age it would always shift. Like when I was like 18 and 19, I'm like, by the time I'm 30, that's the age. And I hit 30 and I was like, all right, by 40, I'm going to figure it all.
No.
All right, I'm 48 now. I still don't know what the hell's going on. And I'll see people who are in their 60s, and I'm like, oh, shit, the's no hope. We're never going to figure this out.
Yeah. No, that's a constant work. You know what I mean? It's discernment. So, I'm 21, 22, and I'm when I'm leaving college, I'm dating a woman, and we had a fine relationship. I just knew that there was something else, and so I took some time to think, like, how do you come out? How do you live? You know what I mean? What is life like? Is it going to change? Are people going to hate me?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about all that stuff. And I spent a good 6 months after college, and you're making that transition from college to post-life, and you're like, well, what am I doing anyway? I'd taken a role with a commercial real estate firm in Boston, which was great. But then at the same time, just figuring out what life looks like. And I think at the time when I decided I didn't want to go to law school, that was one. And then there's, hey, what does life look like personally for me? And, how do I want to present myself in this new way? And how do I want to live authentically? Yeah. Right? How can I be me? And that takes time. It still does, because you don't know how people react to who you are. As a person. And it's not like I typically don't lead with those identification qualities. That's not my shtick, because I'm presenting myself as a person that's capable and can do and wants to do and is trying to get a job, And I think most often, which is what's sort of disappointing to me sometimes, is that a lot of these identity conversations carry the day, and they're used as a proxy for something that I just don't agree with, because it's meant to be something that allows people to be more accepted, but I think at the same time it is an ostracizing act.
Mm-hmm. So how long did it take for you to come out to your family? And was it one of those things where they were like, yeah, okay, we knew.
No, actually, no. They weren't like that. I started, this is me. I started a series of conversations with friends. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if I were to suggest this, what would you think? And then eventually my sister found out from a friend of a friend. And then my sister actually ended up telling my parents, and then my parents asked me. I remember coming home from work one day, and they were like, "So, are you gay?" And I said, what if I am? And I think, for them, of course, parents have a vision for their children as well. And I think, of course, they want the very best for me and don't want me to struggle in any way, as if they might have at one period in time for different reasons, And, but at the end of the day, they wanted me to know that they love me, which I know.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So it was never a problem. And I'm a person that I love my parents. We get along well, but I'm going to live my life anyway. Like I know it's my life. Like I depend on my parents for certain things, but I still have to continue on my road no matter what.
Yeah. Did anybody that when you came out, was anybody, I don't know, hostile or like, you're not my friend.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, you have those doomsday scenarios in your mind.
Yeah.
But that's all that they are. People, my friends were very supportive.
Yeah, everyone who I know who's come out that's never happened to them, but like you said, they always had that in their head, and I was like, who did you think was gonna, like, you thought somebody was really, I mean, I didn't, I don't, I think that's a very old school thing that was probably back in the day was common, but just I think of it myself. I separate people into two categories, and it's super basic, but you're either cool or you're an asshole. Now, whatever adjective you want to put before cool or asshole, that's on you. And you know what's funny? I was telling my wife this the other day. I said, since I was little, I used to always say to people, okay, so I'm Puerto Rican.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was little, I don't even know if it's a thing now, but when I was little, there was this thing between Puerto Ricans and Dominicans where they weren't supposed to like each other. Don't ask me why, because I used to always ask, and no one could ever give me an explanation.
Right.
It was kind of like one of those, it's just what it is.
But where did that come from? Was that like a local thing?
I honestly, just from friends and family. And I would have, my Puerto Rican family and friends saying that. And then I had Dominican friends.
Okay.
And they would say the same thing. They'd be like, oh, I can't believe I'm friends with a Puerto Rican. And I was like, can somebody explain to me why? And no one ever gave me a good explanation. So since I was little, I used to always say to people, I don't care what you are, because with this logic, am I supposed to like every Puerto Rican I come across? Because there's a lot of Puerto Ricans I don't like.
Right.
So to me, it's just like, if you're cool, you're cool. If you're not, you're not. And that's all there is to it.
That's such a great example for everything, is that now people are pitted against each other for different reasons, whether it's an identity thing, cultural background, whatever you believe. But you have to take the time to understand that that's false.
Right.
Anything like that that's presented as false. And that you need to go deeper.
Yeah, and we're in a weird age where it's like, I feel like people don't even get to the point to give someone a chance with whatever it is, whatever bias they have,
right,
to get to know them, which is, I don't know, it's just silly. Right. So okay, so now I like how you said that you had your whole life mapped out to be a politician. So when you were with girlfriends, were you doing the thing where you were picturing like, okay, she has to I don't know, be polished, because eventually, if she's going to be, Mrs. Ian Cain.
No, I wasn't, actually. No, I wasn't doing that. I remember after college thinking about partnering with someone that fit a mold. But when I was dating women, I didn't think about that. It was still vibe.
Yeah. So at what point? So now you got out of college, you start working for the commercial real estate.
Yeah.
And at what point did you start going like, okay, let me try and chase my dream here?
With politics?
Yeah.
So it took a while. I joined subsequent from the commercial real estate firm. I worked in Waltham for 5 years up on Winter Street for an energy-focused private equity fund. And this company had found me on Monster.com in 2006. And I knew nothing about energy business at the time, but we were acquiring and developing power plants in the Middle East, North Africa, and East Asia, but based in Waltham. Yeah, I know. And so that ended up taking me on a whole other journey and connecting with the world. So I'm this local Quincy kid who had a job in Boston, takes a job in Waltham, and
based out of Africa.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're based in Waltham. We had an office in Dubai. We had power plants in Tunisia, Abu Dhabi, China, South Korea, and Taiwan.
Wow.
And so very quickly I was thrown into a fire. I mean, the company itself, it was about 25 people. We managed about $600 million worth of power plant assets. And they were, power plants that used coal, gas, and hydro as fuel. And so there's a book in here. There's a case study because the company itself was so fascinating. The business was run by a Kuwaiti national and his Japanese wife, and they had come here because he had gone to the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard in Cambridge, and he had an interesting career himself. He ends up becoming a mentor, father-like figure to me, and but I walk into this company, and within 2 months they're like, all right, you gotta get on a plane and go to Hong Kong because we're trying to figure out how to sell these assets, and you need to prepare the ground, for our visit.
Nice.
And I'd never been out of the country, right?
Yeah.
Thank God I had a passport. I had to go get luggage, but then the next 4.5 years ended up just being a education in geopolitics and global finance. And that's where I learned everything about the world.
And there's a lot of, I know when it comes to like international business dealings, like there's certain things that you have to do like for customs. I don't know if it's is it Japanese or where like you don't do the shake hand thing? You kind of you have to give a gift, something like that.
In fact, they would give you. We had a book, do's and don'ts of sort of cultural awareness that we would very much need to be aware of because we were all of our investors were based in the Middle East. We were spending time in Japan. We were all over the place, so we had to be very culturally aware wherever we were.
Nice.
And but at the same time, I mean, if you want to connect the personal and the professional, I'm learning how to be me here. I live in Cambridge at the time, and I'm rediscovering who I am. And at the same time, I'm working for this globally focused organization and traveling to the Middle East, and very sensitive to cultural perspectives, especially on homosexuality, and trying to figure out how do I fit into the world.
Yeah.
And so it was as I said, it was an education, but it was also very trying 5 years because from a personal perspective, I had to hide who I was, and that was difficult. But again, I think I was trading at the time that professional experience and everything that I gained for the sake of my personal life.
Were you in a relationship at the time, or
briefly? Nothing that took the span. I had a couple of short relationships, but nothing substantial.
Yeah. So was that a good job? Because it sounds like a.
No, it was a great job. It was challenging.
Yeah.
But it
sounds kind of kick ass, actually.
It was. I mean, as I said, I learned everything there.
Yeah.
And it could be that I talked to my former boss on occasion, and I'm like, we got to write a book about this because eventually the company ended up blowing up, and it was sort of because of bad partner relationships at the holding company level that then permeated into our investor relationships, that permeated into our partner level at the asset level relationships, and then it actually came into the company. So I saw the writing on the wall at a certain point in time, and because it was such a visceral experience that I had traveling the world, and it was my life, I didn't know how to go get a job. I didn't know. I'm like, how can I go work somewhere else? And so I decided to go to graduate school after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at right now. I'm like, if I ever get dumped, I literally don't. I don't have a resume.
I think you'd be okay.
I don't even know what to like.
I think your resume speaks for itself.
Like somebody was like, "Oh, tell me your skills." I'm like,
give me a microphone.
Yeah, I say stupid things to make people laugh. Give me money, a lot of it. So okay, so you move on, and would you? So you're going to graduate school for what now?
So I went and got an MBA at Duke University in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, my boss went to Duke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And what'd you get out of there?
So I got good relationships. MBA is a very unique place. I view it like a big job fair for large corporations, and I'm not a big corporate guy, so I kind of went in there looking to retool on some skills, or at least to affirm things that I had learned in an informal setting or in the professional setting. And I wanted to make a next level sort of network and get another credential, and what I quickly realized was that I had a very unique professional experience. Most people come from big consulting firms or banks or consumer packaged good and brand companies, and I'd come from this experience and had front row seat to action all over the place. And so I wanted something like that on the other side, which was very difficult to find. But I ended up coming back to Boston after grad school and found a job with a tech startup that was being spun out of MIT in 2013.
And what were they doing?
So we were developing what's called natural language processing software. So we were trying to sell to market researchers and to different types of corporations that had large amounts of text data. So think companies that do a lot of open-ended surveys, and they need to process that data. So we could take that data, run it through our software, and then do an analysis, sort of a sentiment or concept-based analysis to understand how people use words and phrases to imply similar or different things. So I said natural language processing, but we also sort of referred to it as machine learning and AI.
So give me an example. Like what company were you working with, and how'd you help them out?
Yeah. So God, we worked with like Scott's Lawn Care,
Yeah.
Like, so the I guess the segment of where these companies would focus on using this type of technology would be in customer experience or customer satisfaction.
Yeah. So like those, like, oh, tell us about your experience. It's a 5-minute.
So
survey.
you would do a survey, you do a numerical survey, right?
Yeah,
and then you might add, hey, well, tell us what you think. Open-ended piece.
How would
so
you
we
rate
would take
your lawn
thousands,
cleaner?
hundreds of thousands of those and help companies understand what people are saying, to summarize it and to give, it wasn't just sort of keyword matching that, 18,000 people said the word right?
Yeah.
But it was we had this sort of fundamental database, which was built by the founders at MIT. It was called ConceptNet. And, like Google is basically ingests all the information that people provide through their searches.
Yeah.
So what ConceptNet did was a similar thing where people inputted words and phrases, and then it built a relational database with how those words and phrases are used. So then having that fundamental context, right?
Yeah.
We would then layer on the next level data and provide a deeper analysis of how people imply what they do using certain words and phrases. So you could understand, so the computer could understand, or the software could understand, that when you talk about the moon, it's not just about that thing you see in the sky, but the moon can also be romantic.
Really?
Yes.
What the hell?
Yeah, I'm glad I still got that pitch down, by the way.
That's okay, so like, let's say with Scott, so you come to them and say, everybody, they enjoy your fertilizer, but they would love it if, I don't know, there was an easier way to, or there was one that lasted longer, or an easier way to
whatever they need to discover about what their customers are talking about. I mean, we'd work with, there were larger companies that had much greater amounts of survey, like Qualtrics. Qualtrics survey company?
No.
Okay. What else? What's another one that I can give you? We did also, you could take like the Twitter feed, and let it run through and understand what people are talking about on a frequent basis. You could use, any data sources really.
That's
but
crazy.
So at the time, customer experience was really kind of rising, at least at that time, where people really want to be as specific as possible to understand what their customers are saying and feeling about them, so that they can immediately change their product or change their marketing to target.
It's funny. So I might be wrong, but on Facebook now they do this thing where, let's say somebody does a post or a picture, and then people comment on it. And right above the comments now, there's an AI summary saying, I'll give you an example. It was my mother's birthday yesterday. I put up a picture of my mother.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And, people were commenting happy birthday. And I'll even read it to you. This sounds like what you're saying. So I did the happy birthday post. There's all the things, and the little summary thing. Oh, see, now the little summary thing's not coming up. Why is it not coming up? But it would say something like, everybody here is wishing the blah blah's mother a happy birthday and expressing their love for her. And
that's similar. It certainly, the way we would look at it in the dashboard or whatever.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Meta AI, what people are saying. Friends and families are wishing the poster's mom a happy birthday, sending love and well wishes for her special day. So it's something like that. It's like it's taking all the crap and summarizing it.
A little more than that, but yes.
Yeah.
Conceptually, we're there.
Yeah. Obviously more than that, but
But yeah. And we were trying to figure out how to make it more automated so that people didn't have to sit and, do an analysis. It would give you more insights to sort of be able to make decisive decisions and action around. But yeah, it was a cool concept. I was there for almost 3 years, and at that time when I was working there, it was when I decided to first run for office.
What made you do that?
So I was living in Quincy, and a seat opened up in the city council, and a friend of mine had called me, and it was fine at that company. I was thinking about sort of what to do next, and I got a call from a friend of mine. He's like, you know what? The guy who had held this seat in Quincy's stepping down. You should give it a think, And so I gave it a think, and I said, this is it. If I don't try this now, I'm never gonna.
Were you known in Quincy at the time? Obviously you had friends and stuff, but as far as...
No, I was from there, but I didn't have wide name recognition outside of the kid that used to work for Rec or went to Wollaston School. You know what I mean? Just being the local kid.
So you had to do the knocking door to door type of situation?
Yeah. So I spent, I think, 8 months knocking on doors.
Get out.
Yeah. So that's the most effective campaigning method. So I had good data. So and you should always have good data when you're campaigning. Especially in this race, it's a municipal voter that you're targeting. So a lot of people think that the presidential election is the most important, and so they vote every 4 years. But then, of course, there are the statewide races, which are important. There are races for state rep and state senate. But then there's municipal races where you're maybe electing a mayor or a city council or a select person or something like that. But that's the least amount of voter turnout that you usually get. They're in odd years. So this is 24. So next year will be the municipal cycle again. And so you really want to target a voter who's going to come out and vote in that municipal election. And so I knew who I had, sort of data that looked at the prior 10 years. And I had a rating system of 0 to 5, who's most likely, 5 being most likely to turn out for a municipal election. And I spent a lot of time. I'd knock on those doors 4 or 5 times in that entire cycle of 8 months.
Yeah.
But it's a marketing campaign. It's business development. It's sales.
And you're going by yourself, or do you have a team at this point?
No, it's me. I mean, like this is a retail solo.
I would never open my door if this is one dude just come.
Well, it's so funny. I mean,
I heard how well dressed he is.
That's really funny. I was talking to a woman yesterday who was probably mid 60s, and she was telling me that she didn't think door knocking was an effective method for campaigning because she wouldn't open the door. And I said, I totally disagree. I think door knocking is still the most effective method for campaigning, because that's the only way you're going to adequately get to people, because otherwise you're trying to, you have to raise a ton of money in order to pay to get to people in certain channels. But in this race, you knew about 3,000 or so people were going to come out to vote. I knew who was going to vote. You throw a couple fundraisers. I raised and spent $30,000, and most of that is on paper and postage. Yeah. So I think I did 4 or 5 mailers during that 8-month period. And I had palm cards like the one I gave you for this one for that. And anytime that I met someone at the door, I would be sure to write them a thank you note and mail it to them. And if I didn't meet them at the door, I would write them a note and just say, sorry I missed you. But are
you doing an elevator pitch once they let's say I open the door? What's your
Hi, I'm Ian Cain, Quincy resident. I'm running for the Ward 3 seat on the Quincy City Council. Just want to tell you a little bit about my candidacy.
Okay.
And either some people knew me or they didn't, but then they say, okay, what do you give me the pitch, or what do you stand for? What are you going to do for me?
So you had like a 3 to 5 things, or were you?
Yeah, I mean it's always the local race, and I think it connects to the Senate race too, but it's about constituent service, right? In the city, it's about paving streets and sidewalks and trimming trees and funding for schools and police and fire, right? Those are kind of the basics. Just making sure that the DPW or the Parks Department is going to respond to your requests, and you're sort of like the. I always say I'm like the fluid that keeps the engine rolling if it's not properly responding. But yeah, it's about constituent service, and then of course there's meetings that you attend, and you're responsible for making decisions on appropriations and spending. But yeah, that's the pitch. But the campaigning is one thing, but what that did was allow me to fall back in love with Quincy.
Okay.
And to see what a great place it is, to see how much it's changed from when I was a kid to the point of when I was running, and to see how much opportunity there was for growth in the city.
Yeah. So did you get elected that first time?
I did.
Okay. So at what point do you get a did you have people ready for? Did you know kind of in advance that you were going to win? Who were you running against?
No, I didn't know I was going to. In fact, it's you never know, and I don't take anything for granted. I remember, in fact, one, it's making the decision to run, which is like, this sort of nerve-wracking feeling of going over the roller coaster just before you at the top. Yeah. And then you make the decision and everything clears up. But I remember approaching people and saying, there's these other 2 running, and they kind of got a following. I don't know if you're going to do it, but it's about work, and I outworked them. So, I counted votes too, because you ask everyone on the road, can I count on your vote?
Yeah.
And I think there's a primary because there were 3 candidates that ran for the seat in 2015. I think my count was off by 30 votes on the low side. So, I was pretty confident in the number of votes I was going to get, but I didn't know I was going to win. And then in the runoff, I got the top, and then I won in the end.
Is it more older people that you were targeting, like, or are there young people that are interested in politics, like at that,
Well, it ends up being older people that vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even, and I would always have to make a judgment call about like spending time knocking on a door with a person that was a 0 or 1, because maybe they had just moved into the neighborhood and they didn't have a voting history in Quincy, And so if I saw a young, couple, I would approach them, or, if I had an idea that they were new. But everything on the local level and up here, like to the next level, it's all word of mouth. You know what I mean? Like, it's people talking to people who participate and who care.
Did you convince people to hold pickets for you?
Yeah, that's where team comes in. I didn't have a team for this race. It was just me sort of behind my laptop doing all the work. But some weekends we would have sign holdings at different intersections, and that would be family and friends, and those were super fun.
Yeah.
We've got great pictures from that period of time that I look back fondly on. And we did fundraisers too, as I said. We raised and spent $30,000. So I don't know if that's a lot of money or a little money, but that's what we needed to win.
So funny. My wife right now is she got into like politics in our town. She's like a meeting member, but Shrewsbury.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's like, she loves talking to people. And next thing you know, they were like, "Oh, you should be on this and this committee or whatever." So she got in a bunch of committees. Now she's like a meeting member. She actually got the second most votes in the election.
Wow.
Out of everybody.
Is she enjoying it?
She is enjoying it. Yeah, she loves that stuff. She's like, she'll say to me, "Oh, I got a meeting tonight," and the next day, because I go to bed early, and the meetings are like 7, 8 o'clock at night. "Oh my God, I got up yesterday and I spoke on this and I spoke on that," and I'm like, "Yo, you're gonna end up." Eventually, it's gonna get to the point where people are gonna scrutinize you because of me.
Yeah, be ready for anything.
I'm telling you, she's on that. She's on the development committee. I don't even know what half of these committees are.
That's great, though.
Yeah, no, it's great. She's loving it.
Local engagement's where it's at.
Yeah. So okay. So what does a city council member do?
So we have 2 meetings a month, except for July and August. And at those meetings, we review appropriations, which are funding requests that come from the executive office or the mayor.
How many council members are there?
9.
9. Okay.
Yeah. So there's 9. So there's 6 members that represent districts. We call them wards, and then there are 3 at-large members. And so we approve or refute appropriations, resolutions, which are sort of just statements of support or refute, and then ordinances, which are the laws of the city.
Okay. Yeah. And so do you get paid for this?
We do get paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you were running, did you have a job at the time, or
I was working at the tech company in Cambridge.
Oh, you were working at the tech company and then doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you get on the council. Still working at the tech company.
Still working at the tech company, and then shortly thereafter, I transitioned to another role. But when I was inaugurated, I was at the tech company.
Yeah, and how many years is it being a city council member?
I'm in. It's a 2-year term.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm in my 5th elected term in my 9th year.
Is there a term for the terms? Like you can just keep getting reelected every 2 years?
You can keep getting. There's no term limit. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. You knew about that?
Yeah.
How did you know about that?
No, I mean I thought it was just.
Oh.
Never mind. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. We don't have a term limit. And I'm not opposed to a term limit by any means.
I don't know if I'm opposed to a term limit or not, because if somebody's killing it,
yeah.
I don't know if they should be, they should stop just because they're 4 to 6 years or whatever it is are up. But at the same time, my opinion of killing it could be somebody else's opinion of killing it.
It's a difficult discussion, right?
Right.
I think people have very different perspectives. I think people become, I think if you're sitting there too long, people are like, "Oh, what has this guy done for me?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or he's not making the right decisions anymore.
Yeah.
I think in the role, I've been very focused on trying to maximize positive outcomes for the city. And so I've been really focused on sort of tech and innovation. And, for the past 6 years, I've led development of what's called a municipal fiber network in Quincy. So here we go. Let's start with problems. What are the actual problems in the city, and how do we develop solutions?
Yes.
Okay, let's start there. So on the campaign trail and subsequently, I heard from a lot of people, I'm sick of Comcast. That's all we've got here, and that's the only service offering for cable or for internet. We're paying through the nose. Our service quality isn't that good. Okay, well, let's see what we can do about that. So I looked into some models, and turns out that there are cities and towns that actually own their own municipal fiber networks, right?
Yep.
And what that sort of enables the city or town to do is, one, you turn it into a public good. So you make a policy decision that says internet is now like a water pipe or electricity.
Yes.
Where it's a part of everyone's life in such a way that you need it. And, that not that you really needed to prove it during COVID, but it was proven that way in COVID, where people were educating and working from home, and they needed adequate access to internet in order to participate. And even now, if you want to be part of this digital economy and have access to either information, job opportunities, or to be able to perform your job, you need adequate access to internet.
Yeah.
So I started talking about it with the mayor of Quincy. He was very supportive, and we started working on developing this new infrastructure for the city. So it's taken us a while. It's 6 years in now, and but still, it's the number one thing that people contact me about. And they say, "Where's the internet? Where is it? Is it coming? Is it coming? Is it coming?" And I'm like, "It's coming. It's coming. We're working on it." So we put together a master plan over a couple of years with an engineering firm, and then we decided to move forward on developing some pilot areas in the city.
Yeah.
And so right now we just approved some funding back in June that would start a door-to-door sales process, because that's how cable and internet is sold. Like originally back in the day, Comcast starts, you're selling door to door.
Yeah.
And so we're going to start a campaign to start subscribing homeowners and residents to this program, so we can make sure that we've got enough subscriptions to start the pilot phase, hopefully in the fall or the spring.
And then it'll be kind of, you just get your electric bill, you get your water bill, you get your internet bill.
Yeah, and the city won't do that, but the city will own the line. But what we do is open up access to internet service providers to offer residents their service directly. So you create a competitive marketplace where ideally we drive the price of internet on a monthly basis down to about $50 a month, but the service quality is high. And you get what's called a gig symmetrical, which is a very high bandwidth of internet capacity.
Wait, sorry. Say that one more time again. You said they...
So the city will own the fiber network itself, but then we're going to add what's called a dynamic open access layer, which will allow internet service providers to rent space from the municipally owned fiber network, and then they can offer residents their service offering directly. But that will drive the price down because there's more than one option, because they're going to have to compete for service.
Is this common, or is this something you're starting to see?
So it's not common by any means. Like there are places that do this. Braintree through their electric company. It's mostly done through power and light companies, so municipal power and light.
I think Shrewsbury does something similar. So they have a company called Selco.
Okay.
Shrewsbury Electric, cable. Anyway, we literally don't have Comcast, don't have Verizon, any of that stuff. You only get the internet
through the town or
through Selco.
Okay.
And you only get the cable through them too.
Okay.
So, which and the electricity also, which is good. So, like, for example, if we ever get a power outage, it is quick. Like, you know how you hear like, oh, Nat Grid is saying that maybe it's going to take 2 to 3 days, or for this community, or maybe like a week. In Shrewsbury, your power goes out, you're getting it back,
because it's control. It's under local control.
Yeah, because it's local control.
Yeah.
That's the benefits of it. The downside was like the cable was free. It was just like they were still using what was that little box that used to go bloop, 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 TiVo? They were still using TiVo to record stuff.
Okay.
But you know what we did? We're like, all right, cool. We'll still keep the electricity. We'll still keep the internet. And I just got like YouTube TV, and I dumped the cable aspect of it. So Shrewsbury does something similar to that.
Yeah. So that sounds. I didn't know Shrewsbury had that, but that sounds right. Westfield Power and Light. They've got Whip City Fiber. That's what they call it. Braintree through Beld, which is their electric power, their power and light company as well. And then Milton had been looking at doing this, which is where I first saw it. And I said, okay, well, this seems like a good idea. Let's do it. And then I contacted this group that's based in Utah that does this dynamic open access layer. They're called Entry Point Networks. And they had been advancing this concept in a place called Ammon, Idaho, which is near like Idaho Falls, Idaho. So I actually went out there and did a tour with them. And there's an article about that project in Fast Company talking about Ammon, Idaho having the best internet in the country.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is for the Newton whoever. I think we should start investing into this because the taxes in that damn city, and I'm fighting with Verizon every other month. But no, that's really cool. I had no idea. But that's something so, like you said, part of everyone's everyday life that you can
absolutely.
make it better.
Yeah.
That you might not have known about.
It's so funny you said the door-to-door thing with the cable companies because I lived in Shrewsbury. I lived in Southborough before I lived in Shrewsbury, and when I moved there, it was what are those smaller companies? The smaller cable ones. I can't even remember what it was called. And I remember I would complain to my wife at the time. I'd be like, "Yo, this sucks. I don't care how much it costs. If we have an opportunity to get someone else," I would see the commercials for like Xfinity and I'm like, if we get one of those, I don't care how much it costs.
It's like the Boost Mobile of internet.
Yeah.
A week later, I get a knock at the door. Now, mind you, I just said the thing about like some random person knocks at my door. I'm not opening it.
Yeah.
I get a knock at the door. I look through the window. I see a Verizon van. I
Come
ran
on in.
over. I opened it, and they're like, "Hey, just to let you know, Verizon Fios is coming into." I said, "Yo, come in, have a drink,
Right.
set it
That's
up,
so
and I'm like,
funny.
let's go."
But not those dirty politicians.
Yeah.
Never letting them in my house.
I'm like, I don't care how much. I'm signing
my
over right
goodness.
now.
Yeah.
No, but okay, so you're actually doing something, though. I think a lot of people, see, like I said, I really don't know too much politics, so I think a lot of people's opinion is
Misconception.
yeah, it's a misconception.
Yeah.
They're just like, they just want to get my vote, and then they just sit around and they tell me they're going to do this, but
Again, there's confirmation bias. Like this will come back to that. I think people want to have sometimes, not all people, want to have a negative opinion about people they might not. They just don't like them for whatever reason. Even if they are doing things. But I'm, in any of these roles, I'm not going anywhere to be sedentary.
yeah,
You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
Like I'm a doer.
Right.
And so if I'm not using the power of the seat that I sit, then what am I doing there?
Yeah.
And so I've liked this project. I've liked, to be able to focus on, okay, how can we really make substantive improvements to Quincy?
Right. So now as a senator, well, that's what you want to become a senator. It would be, you would be going for the same type of, looking for the same type of things you want to improve people's lives, except like on a bigger level, obviously, than just Quincy, or?
Of course. I mean, this is a statewide seat, but how I look at it is through a local lens.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand cities and towns. I understand, what people on the ground at the grassroots level care about, expect, demand in some cases. And I think and there's 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, all with varying needs and wants. But having that lens and being able to serve people in a local way at the federal government, I think is invaluable. And so I look at it as, how do we use this federal seat, Massachusetts Senate seat, to make better partnerships?
Yeah.
Because in a way that actually solves the problems that people are talking about.
Right. So are you going around doing the door-to-door thing now?
So there's a little door-to-door.
That's a lot of doors.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, but I think in this race, I mean, I decided that I was going to do it at the end of February. In March, I had to make sure that I could line up financial commitments so that I could hire a team, right? And the most important part is getting on the ballot. So I had to make sure that I could put a team together to get 10,000 signatures to get onto the ballot. So I made those financial commitments, decided to do it. We formally announced in April. And this is I'm running a Republican, and so I have a primary that's on September 3rd. So I've spent a lot of time getting to know the Republican electorate. And the Republican electorate in Massachusetts is pretty small. So if you're looking at the entire voting populace in Massachusetts, you got about 9% is registered Republican, 64% is registered unenrolled or non-party affiliated, and the rest are Democrats.
Okay.
So you're actually, you're playing to that 9 plus 64 area, really, for any race that's statewide. So I've been spending a lot of time going to Republican town committees in cities and towns across the state. And in order to sort of max, and then there's, again, you start making relationships, and there's word of mouth, and there's relationship connections. So I met a person over here in Shrewsbury. They introduced me to someone in Grafton. They introduced me to someone in Charlton.
Right.
And I get out to Munson. Then I get out to West. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. And but in order to maximize trying to get in front of more people, over the last 3 weeks, I started a coffee and conversation tour around the state.
Okay.
And so, and I used to do this when my first probably 5 or 6 years in the city council. I'd post up at a Panera and I'd say, hey, I'm going to have coffee hours from 7 to 9 a.m. Like, come down, talk about anything you want.
Yeah.
And you get a certain number of people when the city council doing this, you get a certain number of people. I had this lovely woman, her name was Ian Cain, and she ended up becoming a dear friend before she passed. But she was a regular at my breakfast.
Yeah.
And then she ended up being the only one coming. So at a certain point in time, I said, Jean, why don't you and I grab breakfast together every month? And we did until she passed in she died in 2021. But anyway, so that's what we're doing with this. So I'm posting up. I've done probably 35 or so in the past 3 weeks. I do 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and at least 1 during the week. And we text out the GOP database to let people know that I'm going to be in their city or town, and then we post it out on social media. So I get anywhere between 1 and 15 people to come during a 2-hour period.
Yeah.
But that's, again, a direct connection to a voter in trying to maximize time and effort getting to people in as many cities or towns that I need to get to.
Are the people that are coming, are they I don't know how to ask this question. Like, they're obviously concerned about everything that's going on, or do you get any people who just kind of like walk in and are like, I just want to hear what you have to say? Or
both.
Are they all like engaged?
No, both. I mean, one, I think if you're showing up, to meet a random candidate at a coffee shop, you're going to vote.
Yeah.
And you care about something. And so, you get varying perspectives. A lot of the issues are the same, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute. Yesterday, I met someone who had never met a person running for office and just decided to come. So I really appreciated that. And he had plenty to talk about. I think this is a very interesting period of time that we're in. And I don't know if it's just because I'm sitting in a seat where I'm talking to more people, and so I'm gaining a unique perspective on how people feel about politics, government, and issues of the day. But the energy out here, I think, is wild right now. And also it's a presidential year. So I know that in a typical presidential year, at least since 2016, the energy, somebody takes a button and they turn it up,
right?
Because people just get frazzled and it becomes so tense and anxiety's high, and that all ties in together too.
Have you ever had any contentious situations as far as those breakfast invites? No.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, I have not. No,
Tomorrow.
At the Panera table.
Yeah.
People, I've met some wonderful people, and the most remarkable situation that I've been in so far, I was at a Cafe Nero in Reading.
Okay.
And and when people don't immediately show up, I talk to people who are around. So I met a guy who was sitting to my right, and turns out he was a Baptist minister, and he started telling me about all the issues in the community, all the issues, and you name it. He said, this is what I'm dealing with this week, just in my congregation in the community. And I said, thanks for sharing. That's just really good perspective to have. So then somebody from his congregation comes in to see me. She didn't know that he was going to be there. They end up talking, and she was super enthusiastic about our campaign. She was so sweet. We sat down and talked. She said, can we pray? And so I had somebody from my campaign team there. Yeah. And so the Baptist minister, this lovely woman who was in his congregation who came to see me, we all sat there and prayed for about 10, 15 minutes in Cafe Nero. And it was so moving to me because it was so powerful. Because I think, we're going back to the beginning where I think, one, God isn't part of the picture as much as it used to be anymore. And just for someone to be so sure and confident and willing to share their blessings with me was just incredible.
I feel like religious leaders are good gauges as to what's going on in the community.
If they're good,
religious
right?
leaders,
They're in touch with their congregations. Yeah,
maybe like hairstylists.
Yes, and coffee shops.
Yeah, like coffee, like maybe like the local, like the dude that owns the mom and pop corner shop.
Yeah,
he just gets like all the different people from the neighborhood coming in.
Restaurants? No, really, anybody in the ground floor.
Yeah,
because you get people coming. They'll tell you what the economy looks like.
Yep.
because it's how people spend.
So, okay, I like this. So you're going around, you're having the breakfast with the people and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel now as if, okay, so you know how the Karen Reed trial just happened?
Yes.
Whenever something like that happens, everybody, all of a sudden, their lawyer skills and their like FBI skills, like everybody thinks that. Do you know what I mean?
Crime podcast skills.
Everybody's like an expert in this. Do you? If you said since 2016. I feel like since 2016, everybody all of a sudden. Psh, this is what's going on in the world. Let me tell you.
It's so funny, man.
Do you feel like people have that now?
Yes. But Karen Reed in particular, I did not follow that closely.
Me neither, but I could tell you everything because everybody around me was
talking about it and into it. Yeah.
ESQ was their the initials of their name.
It felt like East Coast OJ to me, though.
Yeah.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, it was the most sensational law, trial that at least I've felt since OJ, and I was in middle school then. But yeah, I do think that people do fall victim to feeling like they're experts in different fields, and it's not just feeling that they're lawyers. It's there's plenty of they're scientists. I mean, it could be a lot of things. And listen, that could be because there's proliferation of information everywhere, so you feel like you're more informed. But I don't know. That's certainly not how I go about things. I know I don't know everything, and I'm certainly not going to represent myself to be something I'm not. But I do. I see what you see.
Yeah, it's so funny with the Karen Reed thing. I'd be in here, and Melissa, who I work with, oh my God, they would have her and her friends would have Karen Reed court watch parties.
Oh, yeah,
like how people are doing with the Olympics, you know?
Right.
And she'd be so into it, and I like whenever stuff like that happens, people start going like, "Oh, how do you feel about? How do you feel?" My immediate my immediate response is always, well, "What do you think?" Because I'm not. There's not many hills that I'm willing to die on, you know.
Right.
Like especially with something like that, I'm like, whatever.
Right, yeah.
Let's see how it turns out. But every time it'd be on the news, and she'd be commenting, and I would just always stop her and go, what do all these people do for work? They're there from the beginning of the trial to the end, day after day, with their pink shirts and lawn chairs. And I'm like,
again, it fills some need.
Yeah.
Right. It fills something. It's an interest piece. It's something that people can easily look at and opine about and share information about.
So in a situation like that, let's say that if you're talking to somebody and they bring that up for some reason, what do you have to? How do you approach that?
I mean, I say I didn't follow it that closely.
Okay.
I'm not gonna opine on something I don't know anything about.
Okay.
But I didn't follow it, and I always say I'm actually campaigning for U.S. Senate running across the state. I haven't been able to sit down and catch it at all.
And then they're gonna go, okay, well then, what do you think about Trump and how now they're gonna and they always get extreme. They always get extreme.
And again, that's another thing. You either have to have an emotional response, and the emotional response there's no spectrum. You either have to be totally for or totally against it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And what people do is they'll pick one issue, whatever is their hot button issue that they're super for and super against, and turn that into, if it's something that they're against, therefore every other issue on that side is also wrong.
Yeah.
And if it's something that they're for, therefore every other issue on this side is also right. And like I had a friend who would say, I don't understand why whatever. What was that she said? She said she was complaining because Netflix donated money to Kamala Harris's campaign, I believe it was.
Okay.
And and there were some people who wanted to boycott Netflix because of that. Isn't that considered cancel culture? I thought Republicans were against cancel culture. And I said, listen, it's not all or nothing. I said, this is what I think it is. And you could correct me. I go, you got, some small business owner in the Midwest, right? Mm-hmm. Who right now is voting, and they're saying, you know what? all I really care about is making sure that my business does well because I got kids, I got a family, and
Yes.
all I know,
Yes.
taxes wise, I was paying less in 2019 than I am now.
They vote their wallet.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, I don't, the border, the this, the that. I just want to make a little more money for myself and my family. And then you'll have somebody else on the other side who'll say, whatever. They'll say, I don't like the fact that they're trying to ban these books for children. That's my hot button. Therefore, that's like their issue that creates everything on the other side wrong. You know, but instead of like just picking that one little issue, everyone thinks it's so you're voting because you want to make more money for taxes. That's a Republican thing. Therefore, I'm going to make you extreme, and you're a racist, and you hate immigrants, and you hate this. And they're like, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want more money in my paycheck.
It's not good to generalize, I think, any group. You know what I mean? I mean, like, we're not, all of us are, well, people of color and things like that. Like, they are negative stereotypes about everybody. So I think even to put it in a political sense, to like generalize a group of people based off one thing, it's like you're contradicting yourself completely.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's how I feel about it. It's like you shouldn't, if you hear the word Republican or you hear the word Democrat, you shouldn't, sure, you might have your bias, but you shouldn't, take it to that extreme level. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's where I am trying to come in here.
Yeah.
Because one, I'm trying to usher in the next generation of leadership, right? You look at the bench, you look at who's out there, everybody's seasoned, okay? Yeah. And they're not in touch with the future. I think a lot of people are trying to project their own positions and their interests, and they're divisive.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, the one thing that we need to come back to, and this is why I'm doing it, I think that the Republican party can do this better, is unifying people as Americans. Because what I've seen, even just being a city councilor for the past 9 years, is a particular group of people that might identify as Republican. Maybe they're unenrolled, who knows? But segregate different groups based on the identity things that we started talking about from the get-go.
Yep.
Okay? Everybody's a certain thing. And you're watching it play out now with the presidential election. And it makes me sick. It's so annoying to me. Because you're not actually trying to unify. You are you're actually reinforcing stereotypes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you're just further dividing the country.
Yes. Exactly.
But what do we align on? We're Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to it, all the issues, some of the issues that you talked about, I mean, this is what people are talking about, like illegal immigration and the economy. Those are what matter to people. It's that I had more money in my pocket 6 years ago. I had more people coming into my restaurant 6 years ago.
Right.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm not seeing the same traffic. But, with illegal immigration, it's like, are we a country? Do we respect our borders? Do we respect our laws? Like, what are we doing this for?
Mm-hmm.
How serious are we? Because that's where I'm sort of losing it with a lot of people. I don't think even in certain, with some people who represent us, and in many different contexts, I don't think we're serious.
Yeah.
And there's serious business here, because it is about people's livelihoods at the end of the day and trying to enable and empower them to be better members of society as opposed to being more dependent on the government.
Yep.
So that's where I'm coming from.
So as a senator, how much say do you get with, big, is it just local or do you get?
No, so we vote on nationwide issues from the federal government. But, my first focus is Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's how can we enable people, cities and towns, to be better? How can we enable people to have more money in their pocket, to live better lives, right? How can we enable people to participate in home ownership? Make sure that they have jobs. Make sure they can access transportation.
Yeah.
Because that's a problem here. That takes a big partnership between the state and the federal government that we're not seeing.
Yeah, the tea sucks.
No, it's awful.
It
and
sucks.
it has been.
Yeah. And the way that they're setting things up is they're making it harder. They're trying to discourage people from commuting in cars, but not giving them a reliable source of public transportation.
Right. And everything has changed. You know what I mean? Since COVID, where people aren't traveling into the office regularly, the movement has changed. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that we need to open up transportation pathways to the middle and western part of the states to open up how we can develop housing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But also it's a whole equation. It's people are going to live one where they want to live near a job. They want to be able to afford it. They want, restaurants and other things. So how do we enable those situations to occur? And the worst off among us, how do we bring them up? Right? Because right now what I'm seeing is that we are in Massachusetts, the problem that we have is that we have taken in a considerable number of people through, I guess would be not legal means, right? Except in Massachusetts, it's legal, and it's through this right to shelter law that needs to be repealed. We've pushed people who are residents and citizens of the United States to the back of the line for the sake of this new group of people. But now the shelters in Massachusetts are all full. And so these people who have come from a country and left their country of origin for probably pretty good reasons because it wasn't good there have come here, and they're now becoming the homeless class of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I don't view that as a compassionate project. I don't think that that's right. And I also think that there are people who work very hard to come here through legal means who are also sort of, there's a sort of unfairness here because there are people who spent years trying to become, U.S. citizens, do the right thing. And I'm sure our families, have done similar in generations past. And now sort of that book is thrown out the window. And for what?
How do you even pick where to start as far as issues? Because you just named a whole bunch of different things there. And like housing, everything is so freaking expensive right now. You're talking about commuting right now. The transportation system sucks. You're talking about people coming in, we're sheltering them, but we're sheltering them for a little bit of time, and then it's like, all right, go figure it out kind of thing.
Yes.
And helping the people who were already here and are kind of like they're like, hey, we've been here, we're contributing members of society, but we're hurting money wise or whatever. Can you help us out? Like, do you have to pick and go like, all right, we're gonna go with this now. We're gonna go with homelessness. We're gonna go with housing.
You learn through conversations. You learn through engagement, right? Yeah. So you hear what's on people's minds, but you also see the problems. So, again, I've learned a lot at the local level. We've seen the migrant issue hit Quincy. We have a welcome center there, and because no longer migrants are able to sleep at Logan Airport, they're being bused to our train stations, and they're sleeping there overnight. And
how long is that allowed to? Or is it just like, here, hang out at the train station and good luck? Or
honestly, they hang out until they can either get to the welcome center, but then they need to be processed. They have an option, I think, to travel onward to their place of destination, which might be with family. Who I don't know every circumstance.
Yeah.
But it's not right. It's not right that these people are being forced to live like this. But then it's the unfairness of the sort of adjacent rewards that are being provided, to these people that are coming here above others that are citizens and residents of Massachusetts. And so how do you pick the issues? One, you look with your eyes, you see what's going on. Two, you engage with people and you see what's on their minds and what they're seeing. Yeah. And then you start to weave together a narrative of what's the most important.
Okay. I look at it as you clean your house first before you try to start before you try to help someone else clean their house.
Let's get our house in order.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But someone could look at that and be like, well, that's being insensitive to whatever.
And you know what, though? In leadership, you make difficult decisions.
Yeah.
And that's what we require, because you got people who are, sort of sitting like that, and that's not, there's room for compassion. There really is. I don't think anybody's saying I'm not for immigration. No one's saying we don't want anybody to come here. People are saying, why is this particular group coming here through these means?
Yeah.
Right? Why is the border just open?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are other issues that underlie, which we're not doing adequate background checks on who these people are.
Yeah.
There was an instance where people had come through multiple channels in the United States and they were linked to ISIS.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because I watch a lot of random podcasts and stuff, and I try and be cognizant. I'm like, all right now I'm falling down a rabbit hole, so I got to be cognizant of that. But I'll see a lot of things where they say people they're noticing a lot more military age males from other countries, and the theory is that they're coming in and either to do just nefarious bad things from the jump, or coming in so they can blend in, join the military, join this, join that for more of a long-term way of
Like splinter cells.
yes, something like that. But but almost like joining the military, because eventually they're setting up for almost like
takeover.
Yeah, martial law.
Well, let me just let me ask you a question. Do you think that that's unfathomable? Like, could you not believe that?
I 100% think that is very fathomable, but
Right.
then I like stop myself and I'm like, am I just like getting sucked into like this little corner? But it makes sense.
So that exists in a number of ways. I've been talking to a lot of folks in cybersecurity because, one, there are jobs available in cybersecurity, but there's currently no adequate pipeline for training to get them there. So there's thousands of cybersecurity jobs open, and we don't know how to get them there. But the people who are using cybersecurity training programs apparently are, foreign Chinese, different groups that, we've got domestic threats that already exist within the country that are coming here through, probably legal means, that most likely their role is to subvert activity in the United States. I think a lot of people, and this debate could go in a number of different directions, but I think a lot of people either don't want to or couldn't fathom any foreign threat. Like when you think of war, you think of somebody attacking us with a bomb or something like this, but they couldn't think about a more quiet, subversive activity taking place that could eventually hurt us.
Right.
And that could be in a number of ways. But and that's difficult to try to convince somebody that that's possible when they don't want to believe it.
Right. Okay. I'm not crazy. I also hear that there's a lot of that China's buying a lot of land near military bases.
Yeah, I won't speculate on that, but I don't
too deep.
Yeah, I don't speak. I don't use hyperbole. You know what I mean? But I recognize that we need to be mindful about who we are as a nation.
Yeah.
In order to protect our people.
Yeah.
Pass me his card real quick.
What is it?
His election.
Oh. It's hard, man. It's you're doing a job where it's like you have to you have to get people to like you to get in there, but then once you get in, you got to make decisions that inherently are going to make some people just not.
You can but I would not. You can't make everyone happy, and
right.
And I never would try. Like I've learned everything on the local level. Like it's just this is a scaled operation now, and no, you can't make everyone happy, but you can trust in your decisions that you're making the right ones.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you have a political mentor at this point who's helping you out, or?
That's a great question. I've got some people who I've got different people that I seek for different types of guidance, but I don't have like a number one political mentor.
Yeah.
So
have you gotten to the point yet where you have like these how that people have to cater to like unions, or they have to cater to certain groups and stuff like that? Are you at that level yet?
So I've been, even locally, I've gotten to know, you get to know unions. We've had a lot of construction activity take place, so a lot of union representatives introduce themselves.
Yeah.
I've met some unions this go around, and I think that's another. You're seeing generally politics shift so much that people don't know where their home is in political life, whether it's Democrat, Republican, or sitting in the middle as unenrolled. And so people who you would think are traditionally Democrat, which are union leadership and members, the members are certainly swaying more to Republican. And so I've met some folks in law enforcement and other places that are certainly will give it a think. But Massachusetts is an interesting political landscape, and there's more in that, and there's a couple sides. Like, all of the federal seats are held by Democrats. The majority of the seats in the state legislature are held by Democrats. You got the governor, the auditor, the treasurer, and the secretary of state, which are all Democrats. And the political class or the institutions are all set up to support that apparatus. So it's consultants, it's communications, it's the whole bit. And when I, decided to run for the seat and I was looking for people to work with me, there's no bench on the Republican side because that apparatus isn't set up.
Right.
So to me, what I've discovered is this is all, it's money, it's business. And so, if the Republican Party wants to be successful in Massachusetts, it needs to build a proper organization to compete.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of commitment. And what the Republican Party is seeking to do right now, and I'm seeking to do with it, is provide a path that uses common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because what it seems is that we are way off. One, we're way off balance with this sort of uniparty control in the state. And I don't think as many people, regular people that participate in voters, residents, align with where the Democratic Party is taking us.
Why did you decide to run as a Republican?
So I guess historically, when I first registered to vote, I'm Republican. That's where sort of my ethos and alignment was. And as I said, that comes from sort of family influence, like most people's political influences are, right? And so that was college. Those were the first president that I voted for was George W. Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And then I unenrolled, I think just either before the end of college or after college. And so I was an unenrolled voter until I got into the city council. And those are nonpartisan roles that you run for. But when I got into the office, I looked around and I said, well, if I want to have a political future in Massachusetts, I suppose I need to be a Democrat because that's the only people that really exist. So I registered as a Democrat. And then I started getting to know the Democrats, and I started understanding whatever their priorities were, and I didn't agree. And and so I unsubscribed or unenrolled from the party in 2019 with the idea that I'd go back to the Republican Party. And so now was the time when I decided to run.
Would there be any chance if you let's say if you were like, all right, I don't want to do this Democrat thing, but I also don't align with the Republican side, could you do it as independent and still actually get elected and make a difference? Or do you have to be, it's almost like everyone's like, it's like they're like, oh, America's great because it's not this, it's a democracy. We don't have, a dictator. I'm like, is it really? It's a two-party dictatorship, because if right now,
I'd say system.
Yeah.
It's a two-party system.
Yeah.
I believe in the two-party system, and I think people talk about independent, and again, there's a huge voting electorate in Massachusetts that sit independent because they want to be able to, have that freedom, whatever that freedom is. But the system was set up as is, and I just think right now this is an opportunity to right the scales.
Right. Because I'm just saying, if you came in and you're like, hey, listen, I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat, but just listen to what I have to say. Here's this is my opinion on the issues and stuff. Somebody like that, even if whatever their opinion was, if they went to hit it out of the park, at the end of the day, they would have to pick a side.
Yeah.
In order to get elected.
And before you answer that, just to piggyback off that as well, what's the proper term for this?
Oh, a palm card.
I kept calling it just a card. I just wanted to know the correct term.
Yeah.
Palm card. I mean, just from this conversation alone, and from just reading the palm card, I like you. I mean, I think personally, I think you are a very personable person. I can see why the coffee talks are successful. I would say to throw a left curveball here at you to see how you'd answer this. What would you say to people who, find one of these on their doorstep or bump into your social media page and hear, a man born and raised in Boston, a black man, a gay black man born and raised in Boston is swinging kind of right and is running for office. And you strike me as a person, and it says it right here, you don't let those things kind of negatively define you. You just do what you want to do, and you keep pushing forward, and you don't let things like race or sexuality or things stop you. What would you say to someone who maybe might say, Ian might not understand me? Maybe I'm a black gay man growing up in Boston, and he's leaning towards this party that I might not agree with, that doesn't represent me. but this man is me. When I look at him, we're the same person. So sorry, I know that was a lot. Actually,
No, that's fine.
What would you say in that situation?
I'd ask more questions, right?
Okay.
Because I would want to know why doesn't the party represent you, or what do you think about the party doesn't represent you, right? Or where do you think you're properly being represented? Because I think most people are led to believe that a party or a person looks out for their interests, but I'm not sure what some of those people actually do for them at the end of the day. And so, if you're talking specifically about like a gay black person that grew up in Boston, I think the perception is largely that the Democrats are, they're gay friendly or they're LGBT friendly or whatever. That's not the only thing for me, and I think that ends up being a huge part of their platform. But I think it's actually a smokescreen or distraction from the real issues that we need to work on, right? So, and as you said, I'm not going to let anyone get in my way of what I need to get done for people. And I don't care what you think of me, right? If I cared what you thought of me, then I shouldn't be in this role. I shouldn't be trying to do anything, right? I can't care what you think of me, even if you don't like me for any of the identification reasons. But guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make you like me because of the work that I'm going to do. So that's how you build affinity. It's proving that you can do the work and not just talking, because I'm not going to talk. This has been a long conversation, but
I'm not going to talk.
Yeah, I'm not going to blather about things. Like, we're going to talk about doing the work.
Yeah.
So I know people get caught up in the higher level conceptual identification things, but I don't think it's that cut and dried. And I think that there are some fundamentals if we're getting back to nation and country and laws and seriousness, you know what I mean, about how we want this country to be and how we can create better lives. It's not just, well, the Democrats, they like me because I'm gay and black. Like, that doesn't cut with me.
I like that answer.
That's good, because I think we need just more candidates like you. First of all, younger too. That's huge. I mean,
yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not saying that old people, that every older candidate sucks, but just some of them aren't. There's being out of touch, which some people are, and then there's just like not being aware. It's like the difference between being ignorant and naive.
Yeah.
Some are just ignorant,
They're from a different
and a
world.
lot are naive. And and I'll give you an example. I do a lot of stuff like with the cannabis dispensaries and stuff like that in the state right now. And every time I do appearances and stuff, I just like talking to them. I do my own little breakfast chats with them. And they always complain about how hard it is to start a dispensary, the federal laws about even like advertising on the radio and stuff like that. And I always ask them to explain it to me, and they explain it to me rules-wise, but I just have a hard time. I'm like, I don't get it, because you can't advertise this at Fenway Park because it's not for kids, but there's a giant Budweiser sign at Fenway Park. Explain to me how, the alcohol is allowed. So anyway, but what I said is, what needs to happen for real change to get made is for somebody who's younger and more aware, because I think a lot of people look at cannabis dispensaries almost like how people used to look at tattoo shops. And somebody who didn't have a tattoo, they almost had this image of, I'm not going in a tattoo shop. There's probably like a biker on there with a gun on the table, and they might break out into a fight, not knowing that it's like a boutique.
Right.
And the same with the cannabis dispensaries. They're like, no way, it's like a dirty liquor store. And it's like, no, it's like a boutique. You have a mom in there calling her son saying, hey, you had the orange flavored edible last week. Do you want me to get you strawberry this week? It's just, but they don't know. So I said it's going to take somebody who's younger and can get somehow elected into something to make that, to make it so that laws could change, to almost, because people just they have this image of these things, and they're not going to change it because they're being ignorant, they're being a little bit naive to it. But I think, you're good being this candidate. And I know you don't want to identify as it, but I think every now and then you might have to say to somebody and be like, because they're like, you're Republican, so you're racist and you're homophobic, and you're going to be like, actually.
Yeah. Well,
actually.
Yeah. I mean, I think going back to what you were just saying, it's so important to go to people where they are and to learn, right? To learn about those experiences, to learn about what is possible or
Yeah.
what needs to be changed. One of those areas, I just happened to start diving into the fishing industry in Massachusetts, which, we've got from New Bedford, Fall River to Situate and Gloucester, right?
Yeah.
And that space is in danger of going away, especially like the smaller fishermen.
Yeah.
And that's because of overregulation and the burdens and the costs of maintaining a business. That requires spending time with people.
Right. And learning about it.
And learning about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I want to do. I mean, it's because it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I don't know anything. I'm going on a lobster boat in a couple weeks. Like, I've never been on a lobster boat.
Oh,
That's going to be fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and there are plenty of areas to learn about how you can be helpful and make, again, partnerships to make improvements and find solutions.
Yeah. I definitely think that we need to have, again, there's outliers, don't get me wrong, who are older and wise and still try to connect with what's going on in the world. But your average person, they say you're supposed to retire at like 65, 67, right?
Yeah. If they're lucky. If they're lucky.
Yeah. But what I'm saying as far as politics, I'm like, I think like a president.
Yeah.
How old are you? 42?
Yeah.
You know what? Let's go. I'll say 40s. And the last time you're allowed to run will be at the age of 64.
Even if the guy's kick ass.
Even if the guys kick ass.
Okay.
You know why? Because if you're kick ass enough, you have created you've created a system or your people or a team that will continue the kick assness.
Right.
Because if you're kick ass and you're just this amazing godlike human being, are you really kick ass if you don't want to share the wealth?
Great point.
You know?
Great point.
That's,
if you can't give up power.
Yeah, you have to, and you have to do it. And again, it's hard to say that because again, if you're kick ass, it's like you want to keep this forever, but you have to set it up in a way so that people. What are the things that people never want to give up? They never want to give up money and power. Like if you have money and power, all you're thinking of is how can I get more?
Right.
What's the Kanye West lyric? Do you have enough power to give power up?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
that,
It's like everybody those are the things that people are always like. People go, man, if I was making this much money, I'd be good. Then they start making that much money and they go, I want this much money. And the same with power.
Yeah.
Right.
So
It's
I
intoxicating.
think, so I think that we need to have a system in place where, you're kind of passing the baton.
Right.
I don't know. What do I know? I don't know. I don't know half the stuff
What do
we're
I
talking
know
about right now.
What do I know? I mean, what does anybody know?
It would be, but I do
We're
like.
all
I
doing
like
our
how
best.
I like how you present yourself too. I know you say you don't care how people think, but I like you. It'd be nice for society to get to a point where we just, we judge everyone on what they've done, and we celebrate our
The
differences.
Romero system. Are you
system.
are you cool
Yeah,
or are you an
right.
asshole? It's not hard.
Yeah.
It's not a hard
Yeah.
system.
No, and you strike me as, like I already said, that guy that you walk the walk.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, but that takes work,
Yeah,
right? There's a lot of personal work that goes into this,
absolutely.
just to make sure that I can be someone for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just an ego project. This is like, okay, I think
It's actually not egotistical.
Yeah,
it's
like,
very selfless.
I think I can do this job. So I'm going for it.
So now, as far as all the stuff that's going on with politics right now, what's your theory on when Trump got shot? I go down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
I went down a rabbit hole that said it was an inside job, which I don't believe, by the way, and I'll tell you why I don't believe it. There is no way in hell that I would ever trust anybody to just miss me with a bullet to the head. Yeah, I just that's me personally saying no.
Yeah.
I just can't see anybody being like, no, I got you. I'll just blast the tip of your ear. It's all good. Right when you turn your head.
The only thing that I think about that is that could have turned into a very dark day for America.
That could have been disgustingly bad. And what's worse about it is within 10 minutes of that happening, there was people goofing on it on social media with memes and things of that nature, which is crazy.
Yeah, everything's moving. Like everything moves so fast. And when I was on the phone with someone driving, and from the western part of the state, and then I got a text from someone that showed, and they said, just FYI, like Trump, I think Trump might have just got shot. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, and you're in a presidential election year, so you have to expect anything now, and then, the subsequent events that took place between Biden, the debate, that event, Biden, and now the switching out with Kamala, like, and we still got a couple months left. Like, I don't know what else to expect, but, about the Trump assassination, it's like, I think you would have seen bedlam. Like, I think you would have seen some bad things happen.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and it would have essentially delegitimized our government.
Yeah.
In the political process, because people would have, they would have stopped. I think they would have started not to believe in it.
Yeah. What's crazy too is the way that people. Okay, listen. You're driving. You're stuck in traffic, right, or something. Somebody kind of cuts you off. Your immediate thought in your head that you say to yourself is always, I fucking hope they get into an accident. How dare?
Or those are the best moments to try to say, all right, cool it.
But but then you filter it, and you might just be like, hey, watch it, buddy. That's what comes out.
Right.
But again, how many people were basically saying it sucks that he missed? Which is like, seeing that, I'm like, do you realize what you're saying?
That's crazy.
You're wishing death on somebody. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. No. I know a lot of people who I don't like. I don't go, I hope somebody puts a bullet in.
But they don't even know that person, by the way.
I know.
They have an idea of a concept of a person.
Yeah.
Right? Because at that level, and I don't know, I'm learning a lot on the way. You become a concept to people. You
100%.
represent something that's not necessarily you. It's what they see. It's their reflection, their own reflection onto you. And that is unfair, but it's human nature, and there's no excuse for But nobody should be saying anything like that,
right?
But acting like you know the person, it's just you might not agree with him or how he's present. There's a
not just not agree. It gets to the point where people. It's almost like in sports, like referees. People only comment. They don't think about all the times when the referee, like when the game goes on and fouls get called or whatever, and the game ends. Boom, it's fine. The referee makes one mistake, and all of a sudden, fire that son of a. That's all they focus on. And it's like, if you don't like whatever candidate, the second that they do something that you think is wrong, it's like that is their identity.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's tough.
Prepare yourself for that, by the way.
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
You're not getting. Are you getting any of that yet? Like that. I mean, obviously not at that level, but are you getting?
Not at that level, of course. But you see it rear its head a little bit, and you just keep going. You can't stop.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? That getting to know people on a personal level is a huge thing.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah, it's the most valuable.
Because it's harder to wish, that on somebody who you're like, oh, you know what? I met him and I shook his hand.
Right.
That
matters.
It's a huge thing. So, okay, now back to the election. Who do you think's going to win?
Okay, so I got two levels to play here because I got a primary on September 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
There are two opponents that I have. One guy moved from Rhode Island, or at least...
No, not you. I'll talk about you in a minute. Who do you think's going to win the presidential election?
Oh, God. I have no idea. I can't cast that prediction.
Yeah.
I really can't. I know that I'm not excited about either of them. I was not a Biden or a Trump person, and now I'm not a Kamala or a Trump person. I might write you in.
Yeah.
But,
why is it that... Here's a question. Why is it that we can't... Or maybe they tried this back in the day. I don't know. I should have probably paid attention more in school. But if the president is Democrat, why can't we balance it out and have to be a vice president who's Republican or vice versa? I just think we need to make everything try and make it as
balanced
as we can get it.
But there's more than just that. Then you have the Senate, and then you have the Supreme Court, and those people get voted in, and the people or senators, presidents, etc. they vote for a certain party, right? Do you want to jump in?
Well, I was going to say it. At the end of the day, it's mostly a reflection of the populace. I mean, now you get into again where data comes into play because. There are now particular swing states that small groups of people, at least respective to the entire population in the United States, are deciding presidential elections.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been that way for a while. But I think that, it's an interesting concept, but I still believe in the will of the people, and how they want to see an outcome. And that's why it's like when people, starting in 2016, at least that's what I felt, when people had such a vehement reaction for 4 years after that Trump was elected.
Yep.
It was like, this is how elections go. One person wins, one person loses. But I think that during that election, you saw people toyed with so much. I mean, they were led to believe on a daily basis, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Trump's not going to get elected. There's no way in hell. And then he got elected, and people melted down.
They couldn't handle it.
It melted down.
They could
and
not.
I'm looking around. I'm like, what the hell? Is everybody okay?
It's so funny because I often think to myself, I'm like, are people more invested in politics now, or is it just because I'm getting older and just by the virtue of getting older, you kind of pay attention to things like that a little more often? But I really feel like everybody is just more into it now, even if they don't know what's going on. They pick a side.
But it's permeated every part of society.
Yeah.
Okay, like it used to not be in sports.
Yeah.
It used to not be in entertainment.
Right.
It was, those are the actors. They do TV shows and movies. There might be some subtle things that they try to convey a message about, but they're not telling you who to vote for. Right. And now that's what you have. Politics is in everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't escape it. And that's why I think it's on top of people's minds. And I think that's kind of unfortunate that it has permeated, because at least there were nice, not that you needed to escape, but there was a semblance of normalcy, between the respective areas of media.
Right.
And now it's just all politics and everything.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. Now you'll have somebody who's like, oh, that guy sucks as an actor because he's on this side. And I'm like, so now the movies that he makes suck?
Right. Yes.
Now the chicken that restaurant makes is terrible?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
But I think and again, I think modern communications technology, I think it's the internet, and I think it's all just, you got information right at your fingertips. So it's just the ability for it to be in your face all the time is there.
It's evolved over time. I mean, like, think about like the conception of like the printing press. I mean, like, political propaganda was, oh my God, like, that's all people kind of really wanted to see. At one point, they didn't even care what was going on. They wanted to see all that. So, yeah.
You're right. It is the same. It's just different.
It's funny how you're saying everyone's hopping on, though, because I remember Michael Jordan back in the day, greatest basketball player of all time.
Do you say someone different?
No, I never did. I don't know why you motioned that for me.
You might be a LeBron guy. But, no, he famously, was like, hey, I'm neither Republican. I'm neither Republican or Democrat. I'm pro buy my sneakers. He was just always like, I'm not gonna comment on any of that. Him and Tiger Woods, I think, was another one who like on purpose would be like, I'm not gonna talk about this type of stuff.
Right.
But now you got Cardi B out there. All of a sudden,
she's very. I'm sure she's very influential.
Yeah. I'm like Cardi, really?
I want to see who's moved by her vote.
Yeah, exactly. But there's somebody out there who's like, "Yo, Cardi, B, man, come along, day, Bodak Yellow." Okay, let's go to your election. Okay, let's talk about it.
Sure.
So who are we going against?
Okay, so we've got two people. So let me just state this up front. I'm the only Massachusetts native running for this seat.
Okay.
So there's
check.
Yeah. On the Republican side, there's two guys. One guy lives in Rhode Island, but he took an apartment in Swansea to run for this seat. Okay.
You can do that?
Yeah, actually, legally, you don't even need to be a resident to run for the seat. Okay. Yeah, and then there's another gentleman. I can't tell you much about him, but he's on the ballot as well.
Yeah.
So that's the Republican primary, September 3rd. But of course, the best option sitting right in front of you.
Wow. Okay. So you can just like get an apartment, and is that like a Massachusetts thing, or is that across the country?
That's across the country. Yeah, you
really?
can move to another state and run for that seat, and I think you need to be a resident either like by the time you're elected, like election day, I think.
Wow, that's.
Yeah. And I might be misquoting the law. I looked it up because
I'm trying to think if that's a good or bad thing. I'm leaning towards bad.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
Probably...
I mean, I don't think that's right. I think you can run in your own state.
Yeah.
But.
Okay. So September 3rd.
September 3rd. Yep.
Well, Ian, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Now, if you're doing this, are we thinking higher aspirations down the line?
Well, I mean, this is pretty high, right? So,
Yeah.
and then let's get through the primary, and then I got to take out Elizabeth Warren, which is a big project.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what this all is, and this is a person that sat in our seat, Massachusetts seat, for 2 terms, 12 years. I doubt you've ever met her.
I've met her.
Oh, really?
I've never known.
Oh, okay.
Have you?
Yeah.
How?
When I used to work at the airport. See her all the time.
Was she nice?
She was nice.
Oh, God.
No, I have nothing
Sorry,
bad to do.
yeah.
She was nice.
Like, would you put the tags on her bags? Like, what do you mean? Like, you met her?
Yeah, like she would fly a lot
Yeah.
back when I worked for an airline. Yeah, no, I have pictures.
But
of
like
her, yeah.
complimentary, hi, how you doing? Or would you sit?
Well,
and
the
have
first initial time, I was like, oh, hey, you're so-and-so. I was like 17, 18.
Yeah.
And then like we had a little conversation. And then like I saw her like 4 more times after that. And she remembered my name. I met.
All right,
Okay,
let's
all
stop.
right.
Let's stop talking about this right now.
Yeah. Remember your name.
I'm just telling you. You asked. I'm
No, come on,
telling
ask
you.
him for the inside information. He's seen her suitcase.
I'm actually part of Elizabeth Warren's campaign. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God!
Wow. Okay. All right. It would be nice if we had like a future president on. Like at the low level though, like years, like in
Is
years
that
from
somewhere
now.
you see? Is that somewhere you see yourself eventually?
When I'm a kid, that's like the kid thing.
Bro, that's it. The
But
secret.
this-
law of attraction.
But this is what my focus is, right?
Yeah.
Very much. This is a big project. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, again, as I said, 2 terms. She's a national celebrity, which she continues to use our seat to promote. This is a person that I think is very out of touch with Massachusetts and voters, is focused on nationwide issues. As soon as she got into the seat, she was running for president, didn't win that. But I also think that was in order to buy influence in the executive office because she's a poor legislator. This is a very divisive person. She's probably the most divisive member of Congress. Calling out political enemies, just trying to, she's just a person that I know we haven't seen in Quincy, doesn't talk to us, doesn't understand our local issues. And so I'm trying to bring and counterbalance that perspective, with work to be done and to make partnerships around the state.
He's preparing for that future debate
Last question.
with your girl, Moose.
Oh yeah, with my best friend who probably she doesn't even know who I am now. What's the best place to get food in Quincy?
Oh, that's a tough one. What type of food?
What's your go-to? Like when you're home.
Literally, I go to all of them. So my regulars are 16C, my friend Carrie Lynch, who owns that. Alba, Leo Keka, he's great. Then there's Idle Hour. There's Pearl and Lime. There's Dottie's. Yeah, I love it all. Like we've had some wonderful restaurants pop up in the last 5-6 years, and so and Quincy's great to run around because it's like 101, 103,000 people, but
Quincy
it still
is
feels like
massive.
it still feels like a small town. Everyone still knows each other. It's
My
nice.
wife's my mother-in-law's family grew up in Quincy. My mother-in-law and her family and stuff, and her dad was like it was Durbus Construction. They did like street paving and all that stuff back in the day.
We got a lot of that going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, well, Ian, thank you, man.
No, thank you.
This has been
Thank you for having me on.
Informative. I feel a little bit, not too much, but a little bit smarter than I did 2 hours ago.
It's
Thank
great
you,
to
sir.
be here. Thank you.